It was a cold morning in early March, the kind of morning when the city felt too big for one person's pain to matter. People rushed past each other, eyes down, hearts busy. But among the crowd sat a young woman named Clara Bennett, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. Across from her sat her 6-year-old son, Ethan, happily digging into a slice of chocolate cake as if it were the only thing that mattered in the world. Clara smiled faintly at him, but her eyes betrayed the weight she carried, the exhaustion of years spent trying to be strong for two. Just 3 months earlier, her world had fallen apart. Her husband, Mark, a construction worker, had died in a tragic accident at a site that was supposed to be his last job before starting a new life with her and Ethan in a new apartment. She still remembered the knock on the door, the officer's voice breaking as he told her what had happened. Since that day, the world had felt like a storm she couldn't step out of. Bills piled up. Her job at a clothing store barely paid enough to keep food on the table. Nights were long, filled with whispers to a God she wasn't sure was still listening. And yet, that morning, she forced herself to take Ethan out. She wanted him to feel normal again, to laugh, to eat something sweet, to see the world beyond grief. So she took him to the little café on 7th Street, the same one she and Mark used to visit when life was simple and love was easy. As she stared through the café's fogged-up window, she didn't notice the man who had just walked in. Tall, in a navy coat, his hands rough from work, his eyes quiet but heavy, as though he'd lived too many lifetimes in one. His name was Daniel Carter. Before we go further into the story of love, loss, and second chances, take a moment. If you believe in kindness, hope, and the beauty of life's unexpected turns, please like this video, share it, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that remind the world goodness still exists. Daniel had been a firefighter once. He had seen flames swallow homes and lives, but nothing burned like the guilt he carried. A year ago, during a warehouse fire, he had lost a child he couldn't save, a small boy trapped behind collapsing shelves. It wasn't his fault, everyone said, but those words meant nothing when the boy's face haunted his dreams. He'd quit the service soon after, drifting through part-time work, trying to find some kind of forgiveness he couldn't name. That morning, he was on his way to a job interview nearby when he saw Clara and Ethan sitting alone. Something about the sight made him pause. Maybe it was the way the woman sat so still, like she was holding her breath, or the way the boy smiled without realizing how broken his mother was inside. He didn't know why, but he found himself stepping into the cafe, ordering a black coffee, and choosing the table right next to theirs. Clara noticed him when Ethan's fork slipped and clattered onto the floor. Daniel bent down, picked it up, and with a small smile said, "Looks like that cake's fighting back." Ethan giggled, his little face lighting up. Clara managed a polite thank you, embarrassed but grateful. That small exchange, so ordinary, seemed to shift the air around them. Just a fraction, but enough. Daniel finished his coffee slowly, occasionally glancing over. He didn't want to intrude, but there was something about the boy's laughter that reminded him of what he'd lost. As he got up to leave, Ethan suddenly waved at him with chocolate-stained fingers. "Bye, mister," he called out, his voice full of innocent warmth. Daniel smiled, a real smile for the first time in months, and waved back. "Bye, champ." Clara watched him go, wondering why a stranger's kindness had left such a strange ache in her chest. Over the next few weeks, fate seemed to have plans of its own. Daniel got the job nearby, fixing safety equipment at a fire station, and he began coming to the cafe every morning. Sometimes Clara and Ethan were there too. Slowly, almost shyly, they began to talk. First about small things, the weather, the pastries, the busy city, and then about deeper ones. Clara learned that Daniel had once loved saving people but now couldn't save himself. Daniel learned that Clara was trying to rebuild her life piece by piece, not for herself, but for the little boy who believed she could do anything. They began sitting together sometimes, sharing a table when the cafe was crowded. Ethan liked him instantly. He'd chatter away, showing Daniel his school drawings or asking endless questions about fire trucks. One day, Clara realized she was laughing again. It was a soft, unfamiliar sound that startled her. For months, she'd lived like a shadow. But Daniel's presence felt like sunlight peeking through storm clouds. Not blinding, just warm enough to remind her that light still existed. Still, Clara was afraid. She told herself it was just friendship. She didn't need anyone. Love had already betrayed her once. And Daniel, he had his own ghosts. Sometimes she saw the faraway look in his eyes, the kind that belonged to someone who'd seen too much pain. But kindness has a way of healing even the deepest wounds. Slowly, gently, without asking permission. One Sunday morning, Ethan ran ahead of her toward the cafe, nearly bumping into Daniel, who was already seated with his coffee. "Danny!" Ethan cried, his voice bright with excitement. Clara froze. She had never heard him call anyone that way, so full of joy, so full of trust. Daniel laughed and helped the boy steady himself. "Careful there, buddy." When Clara reached them, Ethan was already pulling out a chair. "Mom, can he sit with us today?" "Please?" She hesitated, glancing at Daniel, who gave a small nod. "Only if your mom doesn't mind," he said softly. Clara smiled. "I don't mind." It became a ritual after that. Sunday breakfasts at the cafe. The three of them sitting together, sharing laughter, croissants, and quiet moments that felt more like family than anything else had in a long time. People often mistook them for one. A happy mother, a playful child, a gentle father. Clara never corrected them, though she knew she should. But then, one morning, things changed. Clara lost her job. The store closed without warning. Bills, rent, everything came crashing down again. She didn't tell Daniel right away, but he noticed her absence at the cafe. When she finally returned days later, she looked pale and defeated. "I can't keep doing this," she whispered, staring at her untouched coffee. "I can't keep pretending everything's fine." Daniel didn't say anything at first. He just reached across the table and gently took her hand. "You don't have to pretend with me," he said quietly. "You've been strong for too long." It's okay to lean on someone, tears welled in her eyes. The kind of tears that don't ask for pity, just release. She nodded, and in that silence, something inside both of them healed a little. From that day on, Daniel became more than a friendly stranger. He started picking Ethan up from school when Clara worked double shifts. He fixed things around her small apartment. He made them laugh again, and Ethan, innocent as ever, began to see him not as Mr. Daniel, but as something else entirely. One rainy evening, as Daniel dropped them home, Ethan suddenly turned and hugged him tight. "Good night, Dad," he whispered without thinking. The word hung in the air like a fragile prayer. Clara's breath caught. Daniel froze, emotion flooding his face. Shock, warmth, disbelief. He knelt, looked at Ethan, and said softly, "Hey, buddy, you sure about that?" Ethan smiled. "Yeah, you take care of Mom. You make pancakes better than anyone. Dad used to do that too." Clara couldn't hold back her tears. Daniel's eyes shimmered, and for the first time, he didn't push the feeling away. He simply hugged the boy back, his heart breaking open in the best possible way. That night, when Clara tucked Ethan into bed, she stood by the door, watching Daniel quietly fix the leaky kitchen tap, the same man who had once been a stranger in a cafe. Their eyes met, and without a word, both knew. Something sacred had begun the moment he walked into that cafe months ago. Weeks later, they visited the cemetery where Mark was buried. Clara placed fresh flowers by the grave. Ethan held Daniel's hand, and Daniel stood silently, offering respect to the man whose place he would never try to take. Only honor. As they walked away, the sun broke through the clouds. Clara looked at Daniel and whispered, "Thank you for finding us." He smiled softly. "No, Clara. You found me. Life doesn't always give us what we want, but sometimes it gives us exactly what we need." Disguised as a stranger with a kind smile in a quiet cafe. Before we close this story, if it touched your heart, if you believe that family isn't always about blood, but about love, healing, and second chances, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your small support helps us continue spreading stories that bring hope to the world. And tell us in the comments below, do you believe strangers can become family? We'd love to hear your thoughts, because sometimes the people meant to change your life are the ones you were never looking for. Just a stranger at a cafe, until your heart called them home.